Hey Nina, I'm Shane. It is an absolute pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well, Shane.
Have you ever been down under, to Australia to work or, I mean, anything at all down under at all? A holiday maybe?
I have. My whole dad's side of the family, I was
Yeah.
born in Serbia. My whole dad's side of the family, so my grandparents and my aunt all moved to Melbourne in the 1980s.
Right.
So I went to Melbourne quite a few times growing up to visit them. And my grandfather, who passed away 2 years ago at the age of 99, was part of the ex-Yugoslav club in Melbourne.
Oh,
Yeah, I have my own roots in Australia.
we can call you an honorary Australian maybe, right?
Well, we were supposed to move to Australia, and
Uh,
then it was, hard to get visas, civil war, and then
oh
we ended
yeah.
up getting visas to Canada. We went to Canada, but I was on track to be Australian. So I really am an honorary Australian.
And of course you worked with one of the great Aussies. I really like her a lot, Yvonne Strahovski. Uh,
Yes.
Great person. Yeah. So
Oh,
there you go. Another Aussie that you're close with at least.
yes, yes, that's true. She's an incredible person and actor.
You've come a long way since Geek, Charming, Supernatural. I mean, your career is soaring. Would you agree? Like, you've really come out of your shell and done all these different genres.
Oh, I love that. Can you repeat that to me every day when I doubt myself? Yeah, I'm really, really happy with the way things have gone, and I'm really lucky to have like worked as much as I have. And you know what's interesting is that in my years of in the geek charming years, is when I
Yeah.
started doing low budget horror movies. Okay, and then two of the directors that directed these like non-union horror films that I was in are producers on Undertone. So 10 years later, when they were wondering who to cast, they go, "What about Nina? She did a bunch of our movies back in the day, and she's done her own things since. We think she could be good." And that's the reason I was cast in this movie.
What a great story. Directors and filmmakers remembered you from when you were like coming through the ranks. That is terrific.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let Her Out. I mean, I don't know if that was the one, but Let Her Out's a Blu-ray that I've got that you're very good in as well. And Fingernails. So yeah, I was serious about your career projection. It's soaring, and I think Undertone really is sealing that because it's basically you almost solo throughout with headphones on. Were people feeding you lines, or was that something that just looked natural and you knew your lines?
So I had to know my lines as much
Yeah,
as I could, but there was an actor upstairs reading the lines live.
yeah,
So every time I would actually call him, and then we would have the conversation.
yeah.
And he ended up playing the boyfriend Darren in the end. But
Okay.
so that was a real live conversation that happened every time live. And then the recordings were recorded beforehand, but I heard them for the first time as we were doing those scenes.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense because you have these reactions and these thought, what I call thought movements throughout. So
Right.
that helped with the naturalism of your character.
I think so. I think it really helped. And I wasn't even expecting that. They kind of planned that for me, which I was really grateful for.
I love the name Evangeline, which is your name in the movie, or Evie. I think that's very not it's memorable. I think it's just different. So that helped as well, I think.
I agree.
I think it put me off listening to any kind of classic music or children's songs now. Playing them backwards, it's something is a thing. I mean, it wasn't just for the movie. Did you have to do a bit of research for that, or was it all in the script?
It was all in the script. In terms of research for podcasts and the auditory aspect, I didn't do a lot. And to be honest, in the beginning, I was going to, like, I was kind of like, oh, maybe I'll start, because I love listening to podcasts. I don't listen to crime podcasts, but I listen to other podcasts all the time.
Yeah.
And then I was going to maybe try and base something off of what I heard. And then I thought, this isn't the same type of thing. And I don't want to try and bring in something that doesn't feel like the right tone. So I'm just going to really hone in on the week that I have to prep of like, who is Evie? Where is she coming from? And how can I ground myself in her over and over and over and over again, knowing that I'm going to be basically the only actor on set? Because I think in those situations, and I've been in those situations before where you're the only actor, you're kind of like occupying this space that nobody else is occupying. And you don't have someone else to ground you in, you better have your own way of grounding yourself, or else you can kind of lose yourself in like, what does this look like? Is this scary? Because that's not what I should be doing, you know?
No, I think the character you conveyed well because you're going through all these dilemmas personally and as well as with your mum, you're being a primary caregiver. And at one point, you put some Irish whiskey in a coffee mug. So that's how you dealt with it. How did you get all those emotions happening, throughout? Because you kept on being more on edge as the film went on. Was it filmed in, sequence or not?
So we did the first week was just the conversations with Justin.
Mm,
And but those were all in sequence.
mm.
And then the second week we started working with Michelle, who played Mama. And then but it was all in sequence in the way that we could do without like, veering too much.
Sure. Yeah.
And then what I ended up doing is just being I really after reading the script a few times, I was like, this is really, for me at least, approaching it as the actor is a story of denial, and loops of denial and loops of guilt. Like, this is a person who keeps denying what they're feeling. And then because they keep denying it, they have to deny it further and further and further. And it gets worse and worse and worse, much to like what we do in real life, which I have been guilty of. Just kind of like not wanting to face my own demons and like really
Okay.
look at myself in the mirror. And so once I was aware of that with Evie, it just became a lot easier to map her like destruction in that way.
Mm.
And then there would just be times when I'm like, okay, wait, hold on. We're doing this scene. When did you find out she was pregnant? Just situating myself before we would do it each scene.
Yeah, that was a kind of dramatic and a great twist to the story, finding out about the pregnancy. That in turn made the ending a little bit more impactful. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Did you practice your screaming, or did you have it down pat from all those years of the early horror movies?
Oh, I don't
There's
need
a
to
perfect
practice
scream.
screaming. No, screaming I've never practiced. It's just it's somewhere in my gut.
Well, you're doing something right. That's for sure. It's good. Making the movie, were there any things like weird things that happened on set or to you personally? Any paranormal sort of stories or things haunting the
Have
set?
you? Oh yeah. So we shot that at Ian's home,
Mm.
and that's where he was caregiving for both of his parents, who both died in that house in the rooms that we were shooting in. So very much their spirit was with us while we were
Oh,
making the movie. And we all in the beginning were kind of like non-believers. And by the end, we're like, yeah, this is just there's too many coincidences that keep happening. The lights flickered all the time.
okay, because they flicker in the movie and you know
No, no,
something's
no. They
wrong.
flickered without like in the movie. It's like, okay, we did that because whatever, but like in between while we're setting up, lights flickered all the time. And at first we were all like, and then after we all just accepted it. We're like, there's Abisu. Like we just
Yep.
yeah, there were other things too, but honestly it felt like a good spirit. It felt like something looking over us
Mm.
movie. So that was a nice feeling. But there was some points, like even in the beginning of the movie, I was my like holding area where me and the makeup artist would hang out all day, was
Mm.
Ian's childhood bedroom. And he said to me, like, he's like, I had my first paranormal experience in this bedroom. And I'm like, Ian, no. I'm like, get out. I don't want to hear it because I'm about to enter this journey with you, and I can only handle so much.
Yeah, I guess you can only take so much that's fact and fiction, right?
Right. And I can only be open. Like it's like sometimes and I think the thing about denial, like going back to Evie's character, is sometimes you have to deny in order
Mm.
to survive.
Mm.
And sometimes you can open yourself up to everything that's happening, but sometimes you just don't have the mental capacity to, and you deny in order to get through it. And then maybe later at a later point in your life, you can go back to it and process it. But like that, an example of me having to be like, put up a wall, like, no, I'm not going to get into your paranormal experiences right now because I have like a very intense job that I have to focus on right now, and I don't want to.
Mm.
I'm not open to do that right now.
Well, certainly, traditionally, if there's something on the TV and you pull out the plug and the TV's still on, or there's chairs connected to the roof, you know there's something wrong, right?
Something's going on.
Yeah. Now the sound is phenomenal. I'll ask about that in a second. And but I want to know about the camera movements because at times the camera sort of moved left and right really slowly, looked like it was one shot. So did you have marks around, the house to move to, or was it all trick photography?
So the last scene, like the one long take was just one long take, and it wasn't like I had marks, but we kind of just had our own dance of like, okay, I'm gonna
Practice.
go here, you're gonna turn, and then actually like some great things would just happen where I just happened to move right when he caught my shadow, and then that was such a like ended up being good for the story
Happy
moment.
accident.
Yes. And then just like I love doing these one take moments because it feels like a play. You're like walking around there, go behind him, get in front of him. And I that was like one long take. And then yeah, it wasn't marks. It was more, there's such a small amount of people. It really didn't feel like, okay, this is your mark and this is where you have to go. It was more like, okay, let's figure out in this tiny space where I can stand and you can stand so that it looks like what we're trying to do.
Well, were you aware of the sound? Because the sound is really intense and impactful for the film, but was it recreated on set or put in later? Because the acting seemed to just match everything that was going on.
A lot of that was put in later, which I was very impressed by when I saw the
Yeah.
movie. The only aspect of the sound that affected me was the noise canceling headphones, which I think were like incredible because it created such intimacy for me in a space where like there's 20 people standing around me and I'm supposed to be alone. The headphones were really helpful for me for that. But the sound, I can't like I wasn't aware of that to the extent to how incredible it is until I
Mm.
saw it.
Well, you'd be an easy cosplay at Halloween, just put on some headphones and, a nice woolen cardigan or jumper or something.
Well, I
That'd
actually took my favorite cardigan from that. I have it. So, you know, that's a free Halloween costume for me.
It all suited you. Look good. Before we wrap up, are there other things that you want to do? Have you done musicals or can you sing? Is that something that you'd look at in the future, maybe?
Not musicals. I want to do more. I did an army movie that was at TIFF last year where I played Canada's first female infantry officer, and I would
Yep.
love to do more physical roles like that. I really enjoyed that. So I'm looking forward to something like that.
I was thinking that Undertone is a good title, but there's a line that you say to your mum in it about Hail Mary. So, this movie could almost be called Project Hail Mary, maybe, as an alternative title.
You know what? I love that.
Just me thinking outside the box, which is a bit silly.
Just me thinking of the biggest grossing movie right now.
And I was also thinking with Undertone, it would have worked really well as black and white. I don't know about what you thought, but maybe even just certain parts of it. But I think in black and white, it would have been just as cool too.
That's interesting. I think it would have worked really well in black and white. I think the black and white would have also added to the claustrophobia of one space with one person. So
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Well, I want to say thank you, but to wrap it up in your final words, how would you describe Undertone if people were thinking of watching it? It's opening in Australia cinemas next week, or if they miss it in cinemas on streaming, what in your own words, how would you describe it?
I would describe it as internally haunting. Yeah, it's
Untraditional too.
as a what?
It's very untraditional haunting.
It is untraditional, and it's the type of movie like I had a nightmare when I first watched it at Fantasia last summer. I didn't expect that at all. I
Right.
was thinking, well, like I'm gonna watch this movie I'm in. I know every scene, so it's obviously not gonna scare me. But the movie isn't about what happens on screen. The thing that makes this movie so, I think why people have really resonated with it and why it's done as well as it has is it does something that's kind of you can't manufacture this, but it affects people internally and really haunts them and creeps them out. Yeah, so I watched it and I was like, oh, great. Okay, that's me and I'm watching it and I know what happens and great, the movie's fine. And we left the theater and I just felt like impending doom and we were celebrating because we were at Fantasia. And
Yeah.
then I said bye to everybody. We went to a bar and went home and I had a nightmare at my hotel room
Oh no.
and and I'm like I don't have nightmares like at all, really. So that is the thing about this movie that I think intrigues people is
Mm.
there's a something you can't put your finger on that affects you, and that's not what happens on screen.
Well, I think Evangeline Evie goes to another dimension because the movie just stops without too much spoilers. It just stops, so there could be a continuation on where you go.
I think there very well will be a second and third installment. Yeah.
Good to hear. Well, hopefully you'll make it down under to your family in Melbourne sometime. Your career, like I said, is fantastic. You're really soaring. I've got to say, thank you for your time. You've worked with Jesse Buckley and the great Yvonne Strahovski, so that's pretty good. Good company.
It is pretty good. Yeah. Thank you. Again, I'm gonna hold that tidbit in my ear for a rainy day. So I appreciate